Hey guys, it's Brian from XS MotorWorks and welcome back to my shop. So hey, this is going to be episode number 4 of mini split decision or hybrid Crosskart. I'm not even sure what I should be calling this thing. But anyway, so in the last episode I covered the front suspension. Again, this is pretty straightforward. It was off of Alibaba. The only thing that was kind of challenging was establishing these mounting points, and I used that website VSUSP to let me know where I could get the best basically ride height, or center of gravity rather, given the suspension components that I had, as well as the wheelbase. The other thing I've done since then though is I did install a simple pedal system. So now we've got the clutch set up, we've got the brake set up, and we've got the gas set up. The gas is a bit of a problem though, given I want this to be a hybrid. It is not using a drive-by-wire, it's using basically this standard butterfly system with this cable type of setup. So that's going to have to be turned into some type of electronic signal to make sure that we can kick the to motor on when we need to. So I'm still going to have to figure that out. Don't know if I'm going to put a potentiometer on the gas pedal side or the motor side. Probably the motor side. Going to have to kind of figure out how I'm going to do that though, because I need the potentiometer to match the actual movement of the throttle. So more to come on that. Anyway, I guess that pretty much covers. Oh no, wait, the jig, you see, forgot about that. So basically what I needed to do is make sure that the front tires, now that I have them completely mounted, would match up with the rear tires. So I did that by establishing a jig. This jig is actually holding this tire to the table. We know the table is perfectly square, it's also perfectly level, so that's a good starting point. So we've got the front tires bolted to the table and they're running parallel and true. The middle rail here actually established the wheelbase. Because this is a 2/3 scale model, I just can't have it be left everywhere. I actually have to make it to a very, very specific location. And that specific location has been kicking my butt because 2/3 scale models are really just a little too small. Probably should have not done that. But anyway, that's what we got. So what I've done is I have gone ahead and created those suspension components. So let's jump to the back and go ahead and see what's going on back there. So here you have the rear end of my hybrid Crosskart. Actually, I want to bring up a real quick point just before I jump into the kind of the build a little bit more, because somebody's actually mentioned, you know, we were spending a lot of time in this. Shouldn't you be putting your energy into the actual supercars you're building? Well, I am still working on them. I'm actually in the modeling phase. I'm actually have to slice up the model and make it with the tool path so we can get it on the 5-axis machine. But this actual Crosskart is basically a test bed. So by adding electric components to it, it's really going to lead into the next project. And yes, I already do have a next project. We've got a K-series motor, and we've got a custom frame. It's about the size of a MR2 frame, as well as thinking about adding hub motors to that. Well, does it make sense to add hub motors given the complexity? Don't know yet. That's why we're going to use this guy. We are actually going to do some basically side-by-side with and without the assistance of the electric motor. The batteries will be easily poppable in and out, and the electric motor, I'm hoping to also make that something that I can take in and out relatively easy. If I can do those two things, I'll be able to basically do all sorts of testing, straight line, slalom course turn, you know, that type of stuff, and really see, does it make sense to actually have that electric motor or not. If it does, in the next project after the 2 supercars, I will be building a K-series with hub motors on a custom frame. So anyway, before we that was kind of the backdrop to why I'm spending so much effort on this. But let's go ahead and jump into what we've got going on here. So this here is the uprights off of Mazda Miata. Why? Because I had them laying around the shop. We used to actually do some Mazda Miatas. We had actually a couple of Mazda Miatas in here, and we no longer do, but I still have some of those parts laying around. So ended up using the uprights off of that. As you can see, they are pretty close to the actual frame rail itself. And the reason for that is we've got to get a differential in here. I do want a real differential. I've shown that differential in a couple of the screenshots, and that will actually be the next video. So I kind of had that sitting in here when I was kind of mocking everything up. And yeah, so that's kind of why this had to be pushed out so far, which really led to some interesting A-arms. So here are the A-arms. Before we kind of cover those too much, I do want to say, hey, really appreciate the guys over at FK Rod End. So they actually helped me out and got these really, really nice hind joints, probably the nicest thing on the cart, to me, and they were actually able to facilitate, obviously, this. They kind of worked with me. I called them up, said, hey, this is what I need to do, and they kind of said, well, these are the ends you really want to get. So that was very, very helpful. They kind of helped me do the load analysis and stuff. So if you need rod ends, go ahead and check out the people over at FK Rod Ends. I'll actually put a link in their description. So here's the upper A-arm, there's the lower A-arm. And believe it or not, even with these kind of weird looking A-arms, the suspension geometry is actually better in the back than it is in the front. The center of gravity runs right about here, about 4 inches off the ground, and stays true through the corners. Basically, as we bottom the cart out, go down to 0, we have about a 5-degree tilt in on the camber, which is actually really not bad at all. So, especially given the size of these tires, it's really hard to make a good suspension component with tires this small, especially a high-performance suspension component. So, anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit closer look at what we got going on here. So to do that, it probably makes sense to go ahead and start dismantling the actual jig so you can kind of get the camera in here and see what's going on. So let me go ahead and take care of that real quick. Get the jig dismantled, get the other A-arm on, and then kind of show you a little bit closer up at what we got.
Alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bonnet. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.
So as you can see, everything is really pretty tight fit on here. And before anybody makes any comments and says, hey, those tires are going to flop all over the place, that is true. I still need to make the tow bar. That's going to allow for me to adjust the toe, and that's going to go right in here. But I had to get the jig out the way because basically I couldn't even work anymore with being everything so tight. So if you look here, you can see the shocks basically go right through the A-arms, and as they pivot up, they'll just clear. So I had to calculate it out, and the differential is going to go right down here. And the smart people out there is going to say, well, if your differential is going to go right over there and your gear's over there, how's that going to work? It's going to be a jack shaft that has to go right across the top here. So anyway, I'm going to cover the differential in the next video. Hey, so I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. So anyway, the next video, we're going to be taking a look at this Honda CR-V diff, which I still need to make a limited slip differential. Talk about the gear here, put on here, and get that in here. So anyway, if you're interested in that kind of stuff and you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And from me and Dead Bob, the infamous sound guy right there, thanks for watching.